Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name is Kyle. We're going to be hopping into the snap counts for Week 4. We're going to look at all the games. It is currently Monday Night Football going on right now. We got the Chargers and the Raiders in the background here, but we're going to hop right into the video. We got a lot of ground to cover. I just want to say check out thefantasyfellowship.com if you are new. I'm going to be entering my Week 5 start sits tomorrow, as well as the waiver wire report. We're going to do the waiver wire report tomorrow night. That's Tuesday night at 7 p.m. live Central Time here. But let's get into this right away. The Bengals and the Jaguars. This was actually a pretty underrated Thursday night game. I know a lot of people kind of groaned when they saw it on the schedule, but the Jaguars, we're looking at the snap counts here. Leading receivers for the Jaguars, Marvin Jones played 93%, Laviska Shenault 75%, Tavon Austin was 73%. So we did see DJ Chark leave the game early. It's on the first series. He ended up with a fractured ankle, I believe, so he's going to be out some time. This is really going to boost up Marvin Jones and Laviska Shenault. Outside of Marvin Shenault, we probably don't care about Tavon Austin or any of the other receivers here. Running backs, James Robinson ended up getting 95% of the snaps because we saw Carlos Hyde was a late inactive, a scratch there before kickoff. So James Robinson gets everything. As far as tight ends, Chris Manhertz here ends up with 43%. Dan Arnold, newly acquired Dan Arnold, gets 32% of the snaps. So interesting game, but again, the top three guys, the offense for the Jaguars is going to be James Robinson, Marvin Jones, and Laviska Shenault. Moving forward, we'll see if Dan Arnold can overtake the tight end snaps here. On the Bengals side, you see the leading snap man, that's not an offensive lineman or Joe Burrow, is CJ Uzomah with 83%, which is a really good sign. He's going to probably be a waiver wire pickup this week. You got Jamar Chase leading the wideouts at 79%, Tyler Boyd at 62%. Joe Mixon ended up with 69%. He did get hurt in this one. We're monitoring his status. And then when he left the field, Samaje Perine was the next man up with 28%. But we're expecting T. Higgins to get back into this lineup soon. They play Green Bay this week, so Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and then hopefully T. Higgins. We'll see if CJ Uzomah can continue his success from Thursday night. And then we're watching to see if Joe Mixon misses any practice time this week. But let's just take a quick peek at the box scores here and show you guys everything you need to know. Trevor Lawrence was dealing 17 of 24 for 204. He didn't throw a touchdown, but he did rush for one, 8 carries, 36 yards, and the touchdown, which is a fine fantasy line at the end of it. James Robinson, though, he gets the bulk of the work again. 18 carries, 78 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, only 1 catch for -2 yards. Laviska Shenault played really, really well in this one. 1 attempt for 11 yards on the ground, and he ends up with a team-high 7 targets, catches 6 for 99. So Laviska's best game of the season. It looks like the offense is going to have to be more focused towards getting him involved now that DJ Chark is injured. And then you got Marvin Jones, a quiet day for him. Only 3 targets, but he catches all 3 for 24 yards. And really nothing else happened for the rest of this team here. Dan Arnold, 2 for 29. That was pretty much it. So the Bengals, though, Joe Burrow comes out, has his most pass attempts of the season in this game, 25 of 32, 348 yards, 2 touchdowns, and adds 4 yards on the ground. Joe Mixon, 16 carries, 67 yards and a touchdown, 1 catch for 0 yards. But Tyler Boyd played really well. He had 11 targets. That was a team high, 9 for 118. CJ Uzomah here, 6 targets, 5 for 95, and 2 touchdowns. And then Jamar Chase, 9 targets, 6 for 77. So these are the 3 guys. With Higgins out, it was a big CJ Uzomah night. And then Joe Mixon had himself a pretty good game. So fun game on Thursday Night Football here. What's cool is we know who these offenses are going to use for fantasy. So it's a pretty straightforward evaluation. Now let's keep it moving. We'll go to Atlanta and the Washington Football Team. This was a pretty fun game as well. I guess let's try something different here. We're going to look at the box scores first, and then we'll go look at the snap counts. Taylor Heineke had a really good game. Interesting to note, the Falcons and the Washington Football Team are the worst teams so far. Through 4 weeks, they were the worst teams against fantasy quarterbacks. So you're going to want to target these teams and start QBs against them. Taylor Heineke, 23 of 33 passing, 290, 3 touchdowns. And he also added 43 yards on the ground. So you like that dual threat out of Taylor Heineke. Antonio Gibson, solid game, 14 attempts, 63 yards and a touchdown. He also caught both of his targets for 12 yards. J.D. McKissick did kind of hoard away 7 carries for 15 yards. He also caught 5 of his targets for 44 yards and a big touchdown at the end of the game. Terry McLaurin, huge game. He led the way with 13 targets. You see 6 catches, 123 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Terry McLaurin. Other than that, nobody else really did anything. We saw Logan Thomas leave this game early with a hamstring injury. But Curtis Samuel, first game back, he catches all 4 of his targets for just 19 yards. So we'll see if he can get a little bit more going forward. But Matt Ryan on the Falcons side, 25 of 42, 283 yards, and 4 passing touchdowns in this one. He also added a 17-yard carry. The running game was really non-existent. Mike Davis led the way with 13 carries for 14 yards, and he also added 2 receptions for 12 yards and a touchdown. But Cordero Patterson stole the show in this game. 6 carries, 34 yards, and he added 5 catches for 82 yards and 3 touchdowns. Pretty insane day for Cordero Patterson. Hope you guys got him in your lineups. The receivers, it's Calvin Ridley, 7 catches, 80 yards, and 13 targets. Kyle Pitts saw 9 targets, 4 for 50. So a better game for Kyle Pitts. I think 9 points in PPR for your tight end. You're going to take that. And really nobody else did anything at all. So you like this offense. It's Cordero, it's Mike Davis, it's Ridley, and it's Pitts. Matt Ryan had one of his better days of the year so far. Looking at the snaps real quick, for Washington, Terry McLaurin, 97% of the snaps. The next best receiver was Adam Humphries. And again, Curtis Samuel didn't really play too much. He was at 37%. The tight ends, with Logan Thomas out, it was a big Ricky Seals-Jones day. He had 93% of the snaps. And then for the running backs, Antonio Gibson, 55% to J.D. McKissic's 40%. So you still like McKissic. He's getting a lot of options and volume in this, but just wish we could get a little bit more involvement in the passing game. That's where J.D. McKissic steals his value. For the Falcons, Calvin Ridley was on the field 96% of the plays. Olamide Zaccheaus, he was on the field for 80% of the plays. So he's clearly the number 2 receiver. He just hasn't been able to be consistent for fantasy. And Kyle Pitts played a good amount, 72% for him. Mike Davis up here at 67%. And strangely enough, like Cordero Patterson, he only played on 23 snaps, but he ends up with a massive day for PPR. So 30% of the snaps for him. But a fun game. Washington pulls this one out. But let's move on. I guess Houston Buffalo. I'm going to be quick about this one, guys. This one was a 40-0 drubbing. Let me just double check the snap counts. For the Houston Texans, like Conley, Brandon Cooks, Anthony Miller, those are the top 3 wide receivers. Both Conley and Cooks played 87% of the snaps. Anthony Miller down here at 74. I really don't care about anybody else here. Like, for Houston, you care about Brandon Cooks. That's about it. We'll look at his box score in a second here, but I'm not even going to waste my time reading these snap counts here until something evident pops up in the box score for us in the future. For the Buffalo Bills, Dawson Knox. Outside of Josh Allen and the offensive lineman, Dawson Knox played the most. He was on the field for 81% of the snaps. Stephon Diggs, 74%. Emmanuel Sanders, 71%. Zach Moss hitting here at 56%. Cole Beasley, 50%. Devin Singletary, 44%. Gabe Davis, 43%. So this is really interesting. I think for Buffalo Bills, the guys you're comfortable starting, I think you got to start Dawson Knox going forward. Stephon Diggs, yes. Emmanuel Sanders, yes. Zach Moss, yes. And then Cole Beasley is still kind of a PPR flex option, but it's getting a little hot and cold with him. He has a great game, and then he has a not-so-good game. So we'll start with Buffalo here. Josh Allen, 20 of 29, 248 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he did throw an interception, but he adds 41 yards on the ground. Now, this one's interesting because this one, it was pouring rain in this game for the majority of it. So Josh Allen, he was able to salvage his day and get enough fantasy points. But the running backs, Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, both guys get 14 carries. Singletary ends up with 79 yards, Moss with 61, but he gets the rushing touchdown. Only 1 catch for Singletary here for 7 yards. Emmanuel Sanders led the way. I guess he did not lead the way. Stephon Diggs led the way with 10 targets, 7 catches, 114 yards. You got Dawson Knox here with 8 targets, 5 for 37, and then the 2 touchdowns. Dawson Knox is a top 5 tight end at the moment right now. You see Emmanuel Sanders here, 6 targets, 5 catches for 74 yards. So I like him as a wide receiver 3 flex option. And Cole Beasley, man, it's just the 2 targets, 2 catches for 16 yards. I mean, in games where there's going to be a huge discrepancy in the box score, you're probably looking at Cole Beasley as not a great play. More competitive games are better for Cole Beasley. The Texans, like Davis Mills, 11 for 21, 87 yards, 4 interceptions. Like, who really cares? Brandon Cooks, sure, he's going to continue to lead the team in targets. 7 targets, 5 for 47. So we've seen the floor here. It's a 9 to 10 point floor. You're going to continue to start Brandon Cooks. It doesn't really matter the opponent or what's going on. Just continue to use Brandon Cooks. Chicago Bears get the win over the Detroit Lions, 24-14. This one was really not very competitive until of late. In the fourth quarter, it got a little bit interesting. But let's look at the box score first. Jared Goff comes in 24 of 38, 299 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. He had 8 yards on the ground, but he also lost 2 fumbles, which ultimately were proven to be pretty costly as a 2-score game. Jamal Williams leads the way with carries, 14 carries for 66 yards. DeAndre Swift only 8 carries for 16 yards, but he did see 6 targets, 4 catches for 33 yards. Jamal Williams was not targeted once, which was interesting. But we got some interesting passing stats here from these guys. Quintez Cephas, 5 targets, 4 for 83. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the rookie slot receiver, 8 targets, 6 for 70. Good game for him. Khalif Raymond, 6 targets, 3 for 46, and the 2 touchdowns. And then TJ Hawkinson, 8 targets, 4 for 42. So we're seeing Quintez Cephas, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Khalif Raymond make a little bit of noise here as Jared Goff is getting, just more acclimated to his weapons. Justin Fields here gets the start, 11 for 17, only 219 yards passing. He did throw an interception. And then I'm confused. He only had 3 rushing attempts for 9 yards. So I was hoping to get a little bit more on the ground from Fields, but David Montgomery did lead the way on the ground before getting hurt. He had 23 attempts for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns, no targets in this one. Damian Williams, he's the backup. We're going to talk about him tomorrow night on the Waiver Wire Show. 8 for 55 and a touchdown, 2 catches for 15 yards through the air. Darnell Mooney actually led the team in targets in this one. 7 targets, 5 for 125. He had a long of 64. He also added a 10-yard carry. Khalil Herbert, Marquise Goodwin, whatever. And Allen Robinson, poor Allen Robinson, only 3 targets, but at least he catches 3 for 63. So Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney, they almost kind of have the same value right now. They're both kind of wide receiver 3 flexes. Let me hit the snap count button real quick for you guys. On the Bears side, Cole Kmet had 98% of the snaps, but he did not even really show up in the box score at all. Darnell Mooney continues to lead the team in wide receiver snaps, 71%. Allen Robinson, 69%. David Montgomery, 62%. And then after that, everything kind of fades away. But we're going to be very interested in Damian Williams on the waiver wire tomorrow night. Lions snaps, Quintez Cephas led the way at 87%. Hawkinson, 82%. Khalif Raymond, stringing together a couple of nice games here. He might be a waiver wire option for you tomorrow. 75%, Swift, 73%, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, 72%. So as far as this game is concerned, the Lions they're adding more players that I'm interested in for fantasy. I think Cephas, Raymond need to be potentially looked at as wide receiver 3s, or I guess wide receivers to add and maybe be flexed at some point. We're going to keep an eye on them. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown played pretty well too. So we got some receivers we should be interested in there. Carolina and the Dallas Cowboys. This one was a pretty fun game. Dallas just blew it open in the third quarter to win 36-28. Looking at the box score real quick. Sam Darnold, 26 of 39, 301 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and then he adds 6 carries for 35 yards and 2 more rushing touchdowns. Just a massive day for Sam Darnold. Chuba Hubbard was the clear lead back in this one. 13 carries for 57 yards. Also caught both of his targets for 14. So Chuba's probably a low-end running back too in PPR going forward. I like the volume. Again, this was not a very friendly game script for Chuba to get rolling here, but it's clear that he is the guy that they're going to get the ball as far as running backs go. DJ Moore comes in, 12 targets, 8 for 113 and 2 touchdowns. Here's a really good sign for Robbie Anderson, 11 targets, 5 for 46. So it looks like, we could potentially start to trust him with Christian McCaffrey out there trying to find more ways to get him the ball. And then after that, it was a bunch of nothing. I mean, Rodney Smith, backup running back, 5 for 48. Nothing from Terrace Marshall in this one. So, again, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Chuba Hubbard, these are the pieces we want, at least for next week. Dak Prescott, 14 of 22, only 188 passing yards, but he gets 4 touchdowns, 35 yards on the ground as well. This one was all about the running game as Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard combined for over 200 rushing yards. 20 attempts for Zeke, 143 yards and 1 touchdown. Tony Pollard adds 10 carries for 67 yards. No catches for either running back in this one. As far as the receiving weapons go, Amari Cooper, he catches all 3 of his targets for 69 yards and a touchdown. He actually left the game, but came back, and he did catch his touchdown later in that one. Dalton Schultz, 8 targets, leading the team with 8 targets was pretty impressive. And then you see 6 for 58 and a touchdown. Cedric Wilson also catches a touchdown here. Blake Jarwin, only 3 targets, but he gets the 1 big catch for 18 yards and the touchdown. CeeDee Lamb with a really quiet day, 5 targets, 2 for 13. So let's move on to the snap counts real quick. The Cowboys snap count, CeeDee Lamb led the way at 80%. Dalton Schultz, I think Dalton Schultz is probably a top 10 tight end the rest of the season. 79% of the snaps for him. Ezekiel Elliott, 75%. Cedric Wilson playing a lot with the Cooper injury. He was at 57%. Blake Jarwin, 54%. There's Cooper at 48%, and Tony Pollard right here at 30%. The Panthers offense, Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore both at 84% of the snaps, which is great to see. Terrace Marshall Jr. again, he didn't play very well. He wasn't targeted heavily, but 71% of the snaps. Ian Thomas led the way in tight end snaps, so we're going to watch him to see if he can get any kind of fantasy role going forward. And the one thing, we like the Chuba the box score, but the snap counts were a little weak. 47% for him. Rodney Smith played a lot of third down stuff, 37% there. So let's pick it up and move on to the Baltimore Ravens and the Denver Broncos. We'll start with the snaps in this one, and then we'll work our way back up to the box score. But you got the Ravens sitting here. Lamar Jackson played the full game. Sammy Watkins, 73%. He led all receivers and basically any non-lineman or quarterback here with 73% of the snaps. Patrick Ricard, fullback, plays a lot. Mark Andrews, 63%. Latavius Murray finally made some separation in the running back game, as we saw Tyson Williams was inactive. 62% for Latavius Murray. Marquise Brown, 62% as well. Really nobody else for fantasy that we need to be concerned of for the Broncos. Cortland Sutton plays a team-high 95%. Noah Fant, 93% of the snaps. Tim Patrick, 92%. This is kind of the offense going forward. But Javonte Williams, 51% of the snaps. Melvin Gordon did get 49%. And Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock basically split this game down the middle. We saw Teddy Bridgewater get hurt with the concussion symptom. We'll see if he can get back for next week against Pittsburgh. But here's the stats for the Broncos. Drew Lock, 12 of 21, only 113 yards and 1 interception. Teddy Bridgewater didn't play very well when he was in, 7 for 16, 65 yards and a touchdown here. Melvin Gordon led the way in carries, 9 for 56. Javonte, 7 for 48. Let's see here. Just a couple catches for each guy here. Nothing too amazing for fantasy. But Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant, both saw a good amount of targets here. Sutton with 8 targets, but only 3 for 47. Noah Fant was the play of the day here. 10 targets, 6 for 46, and a touchdown. And Tim Patrick with 6 targets, but only 3 for 39. So not a great game for Denver. It was a pretty frustrating afternoon. Drew Lock didn't really hold up his end of the deal, and Teddy Bridgewater left early. So it was just overall a frustrating day for the 3-0 Broncos. Lamar Jackson in this one, 22 of 37, 316 and a touchdown, adds 28 yards rushing on the ground. And then here you go, Latavius Murray, 18 carries, 59 yards and a touchdown. No targets to the running backs here. I guess 1 for Le'Veon Bell, but Latavius Murray making some separation. He might be the lead back going forward. Marquise Brown, 5 targets, 4 for 91 and a touchdown. Big day for him. James Proche, the second-year receiver, 6 targets, 5 for 74. Mark Andrews having a good game here, 8 targets, 5 for 67. Sammy Watkins, 4 for 49. And Devin Duvernay. So the receivers are making a little bit of noise in this offense, which is good to see. But biggest takeaway is Latavius Murray stepping forward, and maybe Lamar Jackson maybe having more than a couple weapons here that we should be interested in for fantasy. Let's go to Pittsburgh and Green Bay. Packers win 27-17. Let's look at the snap counts right now. It should have rolled down there. Where are we with the snap counts? On the Steelers side, Juju Smith-Schuster led the way, 95%. Deontay Johnson, 92%. James Washington with Chase Claypool out. Washington comes in and gets 82%. Najee Harris on the field for 80% of the snaps. And then the tight ends, Freiermuth and Eric Ebron. Pat's getting 53% to Ebron's 47%, but I really don't know if we can recommend either tight end. This one was just all about Juju, Deontay, James Washington, and Najee. On the Packers side, Davonte Adams, 88%. Allen Lazard, we called this. He was going to be the next man up in terms of snaps. Didn't really translate to fantasy success, but 79% of snaps for him, 78% for Robert Tonyan. Aaron Jones kind of, took it easy in this one, 62% of the snaps for him. A.J. Dillon saw, I think this was a season high for him, 40% of the snaps. Randall Cobb also saw 46% of the snaps. And Randall Cobb was the biggest benefactor of the no Marquez Valdez-Scantling in this one. So for Rodgers, 20 of 36, 248, 2 touchdowns. Also added a rushing touchdown. Inefficient day. It was kind of a sloppy, rainy game in Green Bay. So maybe chalk it up to that. I'm not sure. But A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones both received 15 carries in this one. A.J. Dillon gets 81 yards and catches his lone target for 16. Aaron Jones, 15 for 48 on the ground, 3 for 51 as a receiver, but he did lose a pretty costly fumble. I think it was in the beginning of the fourth quarter or late third quarter. Randall Cobb leads the way in fantasy points in this one. Randall Cobb, 6 targets, 5 for 69, and 2 touchdowns. I'm sure he'll be a waiver wire guy this week that we'll talk about tomorrow night. Davonte Adams goes 11 targets, 6 for 64. This is a floor game from Davonte Adams. He'll get the touchdowns rolling hopefully next week against Cincinnati. Allen Lazard sees 3 targets, 2 for 33. Robert Tonyan, 7 targets, but only 2 for 8. So I apologize if I recommended starting Tonyan in this one. I know it was a home game. He had a lot of tight end touchdown shots, just couldn't connect with Rodgers. So overall, a decent day from the Packers, but it could have been so much more. I don't know if the rain bogged things down. But the Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, 26 of 40, only 232 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. He also lost a fumble in this one. Najee Harris goes 15 for 62. 1 touchdown, catches 6 of his 7 targets for 29 yards. Deontay was the play of the game, 13 total targets, 9 for 92, and the TD here. James Washington played pretty well, 4 for 69. Rough day for Juju, though. 8 targets and only 2 for 11, so that was kind of the weak spot here. They really couldn't get anything going outside of Najee and Deontay. I did think James Washington looked pretty good, but we're going to have to wait and see if our guy Chase Claypool gets back soon. But frustrating day from Pittsburgh's offense. Green Bay, it got the job done, but I guess it was a pretty, like, I watched most of this game. It was pretty frustrating from both sides. It was kind of just a slow, sloppy day in Green Bay on a rainy afternoon. We'll go over to Indianapolis and Miami. I don't really know how much we care for it. It was a pretty ugly game here. In terms of snap counts, we know Will Fuller's hurt, so the receivers, Devontae Parker and Jalen Waddle, were the top 2 guys in snap counts. Mike Gesicki looks to be back. He got 69% of the snaps. Malcolm Brown led the way in running back snaps, 67%. Myles Gaskin down here at 23%. I don't know if he was injured or what, or if they just got taken out of the game. Rough day for Myles Gaskin, but the Dolphins offense going forward, I really don't know who we're going to recommend outside of Parker, Waddle, and Mike Gesicki for the Colts. Michael Pittman continues to get a ton of snaps. He led the way with 86%. Zach Pascal played well, 82%, and Ally Cox, 69%. You're going to continue to throw out Jonathan Taylor every week, 51% of the snaps for him. Naheem Hines down here at 31%. The tight ends, Kylan Granson actually got more snaps than Jack Doyle. Jack Doyle down here at 21. Granson got 30 snaps. Let's look at these numbers real quick in the box score. For the Colts, Carson Wentz played really steady in this one. 24 of 32, 228 yards and 2 touchdowns, added 8 yards on the ground. Jonathan Taylor wraps up 16 carries for 103 yards and gets his first touchdown on the season, also 3 for 11 as a catcher. Marlon Mack, 10 carries, whatever. We're not going to trust him ever. Sign him up to our team. Quiet day out of Naheem Hines, who also lost a fumble in this one. Michael Pittman Jr. Pittman's the wide receiver 1 in this team. I think you can lock him in PPR leagues. You can probably lock him in as a wide receiver 3 going forward. 8 targets, 6 for 59. That's a floor game for him right now. 10, 11 points seems likely. Pascal, 4 for 44. Ally Cox, so this was the story. He saw 5 targets, 3 for 42 and 2 touchdowns. I think he could be worth a stash play at the moment right now. He played like the best tight end for the Colts. With the Miami Dolphins, Jacoby Brissett, 20 of 30, 199 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did lose a fumble in this one. Malcolm Brown, 8 for 23. Myles Gaskin, 2 for 3. No targets. I just stay away from the Dolphins running game for the time being. Devontae Parker led the way with targets with 9, 4 for 77 and the touchdown. Mike Gesicki was the next best weapon. 6 targets, 5 for 57 and a touchdown. Quiet day for Jalen Waddle, only 4 targets, 3 for 33. And then really nothing else on this team can be trusted. So if you're relying on these teams for fantasy, it's not pretty. I think for the Colts side, it's JT and Michael Pittman. For the Dolphins, it's at this point, it's Parker, Gesicki, and maybe Jalen Waddle. We'll see. But overall, a rough day. The Cleveland Browns and the Minnesota Vikings. Let's take a look at this snap counts. Really slow-paced game here. But the Browns, Odell Beckham, good to see him continue to stay healthy, 79% of the snaps for him. Not really interested in any other receiver on this team. Donovan Peoples-Jones was the number 2. Rashard Higgins was the 3. Anthony Schwartz was the 4. The tight ends, though, I mean, Austin Hooper, 56 total snaps. David Njoku, 52 snaps. So running a lot of 2 tight end stuff at the moment right here. In terms of running back snaps, Kareem Hunt, 41 snaps for 53%. Nick Chubb, 37 snaps for 47%. So he's losing to Kareem Hunt at the moment right now. For the Vikings side, Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson continue to be the top 2 receivers. 99% snaps for Thielen, 88% for Justin Jefferson. Tyler Conklin played a ton of snaps in this one, 85%. KJ Osborne here at 63%. Dalvin Cook, kind of just using him sparingly, 49% to Alexander Madison's 34%. But it's looking like there's a hierarchy here. Thielen, Jefferson are always going to get theirs. Tyler Conklin looks like the number 3 weapon in the passing game. Let's check out the numbers here. Kirk Cousins, low efficiency day, 20 of 38, 203 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 INT, no yards on the ground. Dalvin Cook, only 9 carries for 34 yards, 2 receptions, 10 yards on 6 targets. Madison only added 20 yards on the ground as well. KJ Osborne, 7 targets, but only 3 for 26. I like seeing him involved in the offense. Justin Jefferson was the play of the day, 6 for 84 and a touchdown. Quiet day from Adam Thielen, 3 for 46. Tyler Conklin, another pretty quiet day here too. 6 targets, 4 for 18. I think we can chalk this up to just both. Kevin Stefanski having come from Minnesota, both these teams kind of knew what they were trying to do. They knew the offensive systems pretty well and let the defenses clamp in on each other and stop what they were trying to do. Baker Mayfield, rough day for him, 15 of 33, only 155 yards passing, sacked 3 times, 11 yards on the ground. This was all about the running game. Nick Chubb, 21 for 100 yards, 1 catch for 5. Kareem Hunt here with 14 for 69, and he gets the touchdown, adds 2 for 17 as a wide receiver. Odell Beckham, 7 targets, but only 2 for 27. Higgins, 4 for 63. After that, it was just a pile of nothing here. So frustrating day on the offense for both sides here. We'll look to see if they can get back on the good side of things next week. We have an overtime game here, the Giants and the New Orleans Saints. The Giants go to New Orleans and steal this one here. Let's look at the snap counts real quick. I'm interested in the Giants. The leading receiver, Kenny Golladay, 92%. After that, the rookie Kadarius Toney getting some run here at 78%. John Ross with 44. The running back, Saquon Barkley, is back, 89%. I shouldn't be getting any more Saquon Barkley questions. He's a running back 1 going forward, a top 5, top 10 option every week. Evan Ingram's back and healthy as well, 68% of the snaps for him. On the Saints side, Winston, 88%, losing some snaps to Taysom Hill. Alvin Kamara, 87%. Marquez, 82%. After that, we can't really. The Saints are hard to trust at the moment right now. I don't know how to get a good read on them. Winston goes 17 of 23, 226 and a touchdown. That 1 touchdown was to Jawan Johnson. Alvin Kamara continues to rack up the carries, 26 for 120, but not a single target. You'll take the 12 points, but geez, we got to get Alvin Kamara some catches in the passing game. If they can get Tony Jones 3 targets, why can't we get Alvin Kamara at least 1? Ty Montgomery also getting 3 targets, 3 for 42 here. Callaway, 2 for 74, still kind of hard to trust. Deontay Johnson, 5 for 52. For the Saints side of things, I'm not starting anybody besides Alvin Kamara at the moment. For the New York Giants, Dan the Man Jones, 28 for 40, 402 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT, adds 27 yards on the ground. Saquon Barkley, 13 of 52 and the touchdown, also 5 for 74 and a touchdown as a receiver. So vintage Saquon Barkley day here, very used in the passing game. Love to see that. Kadarius Toney, a team high, 9 targets, 6 for 78, looking good. Toney, we'll talk about him on the waiver wire show tomorrow. And Kenny Golladay, 6 for 116. John Ross, 3 for 77 and a touchdown. Just really good things coming out of this game for the offense. Kyle Rudolph, 2 for 24. Evan Ingram catches 5 for 27. So interesting day here. I'm actually kind of excited about the Giants. They're going to be going to Dallas next week. We might be using some of these guys for fantasy. Kadarius Toney, maybe off the waiver wire. Kenny Golladay, a hot item here as a wide receiver 3. So fun day for the Giants, rough day for the Saints. Tampa Bay, New England. I really didn't care about that. I know people kind of oversold this one here. Tom Brady returning to New England. I really didn't. Whatever. Tom Brady just playing another game. Chris Godwin, 94% of the snaps. Mike Evans, 88%. Leonard Fournette. On days where Giovanni Bernard is not playing, Leonard Fournette's a running back too. 82% of the snaps for him. With Gronk out, you see O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate basically split the snaps evenly. Nothing was useful for fantasy. And Antonio Brown, 51%. Ronald Jones looking better, 17% of the snaps on this one. For the Patriots side of things, Jacoby Myers, man, he's a wide receiver 3 flex going forward. Jacoby Myers with 95%, Nelson Aguilar 73%, Hunter Henry miles ahead of Jonnu Smith here. He runs 40 snaps to 28 snaps for Jonnu Smith, Kendrick Bourne, whatever, 61% of the snaps. Damian Harris, he was on the field for 61% of the snaps, just didn't play very well. Brandon Bolden, 19 snaps for 32%. But let's go look at some of these numbers in the box score and get a better idea what's going on. Mac Jones played really well. 31 of 40, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, but he was sacked 4 times. Jacoby Myers actually attempted 2 passes, 2 for 45 in this one. He also had a team high, 12 targets, 8 for 70 as a receiver. Nelson Aguilar, 3 for 55. Kendrick Bourne, 5 for 58. Brandon Bolden, he's going to be the James White guy. 6 targets, 6 catches for 51 yards. Hunter Henry, 5 targets, 4 for 32 and a touchdown. Jonnu Smith did see 5 targets too, but 3 for 14 and a touchdown. Otherwise, Damien Harris led the way with carries, 4 for -4, 2 for 30 as a receiver. If you started him, I guess you got your PPR points, so that's good to see. But Tom Brady struggled in this one, 22 of 43. Again, it was pouring rain, 269 yards, no touchdowns, 3 yards on the ground. Leonard Fournette was a beast, though, 20 for 91 on the ground, 3 for 47 as a receiver. Ronald Jones gets the lone Buccaneer touchdown, 6 for 25 and a TD in this one. Mike Evans led the way in targets, 7 for 75. Antonio Brown, 11 targets, 7 for 63. Godwin, only 5 targets, 3 for 55. So this is the first Godwin floor game here. And then Cameron Brate, 2 for 29. He did see 6 targets to OJ Howard's 1. So if Gronk's out next week, Cameron Brate might be of interest to us. Moving on to Tennessee and the goddamn Jets, who get their first win of the season. Interesting game here. The receivers for the Titans, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, he did lead the way with 81% of the snaps, quiet in the box score. Josh Reynolds, 78%. Chester Rogers, 66%. Derrick Henry, of course, at 59%. And then Anthony Firkser was back, 50% of the snaps for him. And then the other guy we have to take a note of here is Jeremy McNichols at 40% of the snaps. For the Jets, Corey Davis led the way at 82%. Tyler Kroft, tight end, 75%. But Jamison Crowder was back in this one. You see 62% of the snaps there. Keelan Cole, next best thing, 59% of the snaps. Michael Carter, 51%. Ty Johnson, 33%. So it's nice to see Michael Carter lead the way in snaps. With 51 to 33 for Ty Johnson. That's a good sign going forward. And then Denzel Mims made an appearance down here. But let's look at these numbers here as Tennessee loses in New York. So Zach Wilson, 21 of 34, 297, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. Carter leads the way in carries, 13 for 38 and a touchdown. 3 targets as a receiver, but 1 for -4. This is a good game for Carter. He finally gets a touchdown, and he just dominates the touches in the running back field. So you love to see that. Corey Davis leads the way here, 7 targets, 4 for 111 and a touchdown. Jamison Crowder actually had the most targets, 9 targets, 7 for 61 and a touchdown here. Keelan Cole, 3 for 92, big day there. It's still hard to trust these guys, I think, at the moment right now. Zach Wilson, maybe a quarterback 2 for Superflex leagues next week. Carter, just worth hanging on to on the bench. But Corey Davis, you're probably trying to get him in the lineups. And then we'll talk about Jamison Crowder on the waiver wire tomorrow. Ryan Tannehill, 30 for 49 attempts, 298 and a touchdown, adds 9 yards on the ground. Derrick Henry racks up 33 attempts, 157 yards and a touchdown, 2 for 20 as a wide receiver. Jeremy McNichols leads the way with 12 targets, 8 for 74. There's Josh Reynolds as the highest targeted receiver, 9 targets, 6 for 59. Chester Rogers, 6 targets, 5 for 63. You got Nick Westbrook-Ikhine here. He did have 8 targets, but only 3 for 29. Not sure why they weren't able to connect a little bit more. And then Anthony Firkser, a low game here, but 5 targets, 3 for 23. Maybe he is back. We'll talk about him on the waiver wire too. So interesting day. The Titans embarrassed themselves in New York, but really great game from Zach Wilson and the New York Jets. Good fight, and they hold on to win that game. Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles, 42 to 30 is the final here. In terms of snap counts, Travis Kelce, 88%, Tyreek Hill, 81%. Demarcus Robinson was the second leading receiver at 67%. Mecole Hardman, 52%. Clyde Edwards-Helaire did get 52% as well. And then Darrell Williams right here at 36%. For the Eagles, Devonta Smith, 92%. Dallas Goedert beat Zach Ertz significantly in snaps in this one. So you see 74% here. Reagor was with 70%. Sanders doesn't show up in the box score. He gets 64% of the snaps, but his backup, Kenneth Gainwell, gets 39% and actually performed a lot better. Quez Watkins is the wide receiver 3, 58%, and Zach Ertz. Ertz did play well, only 50% of the snaps, but let's take a peek at these numbers real quick. Hurts, 32 of 48, 387 as a passer, and 2 touchdowns, adds 47 yards on the ground. Great day from him from a stat standpoint. But Kenneth Gainwell goes 3 for 31 and a touchdown. He also gets 8 targets, 6 for 58. Miles Sanders is just not getting any love here. 7 for 13 as a rusher, 3 targets, 3 for 34 as a receiver. So he gets enough, I guess, as a, like a 7-8 point game. But Kenneth Gainwell is the guy that they call, when they need a play in the red zone, or he just gets a lot more action as a receiver. Jalen Reagor, rough day, only 1 target, 9 yards. On a day where Ertz throws 48 balls, Jalen Reagor, I'm probably just going to cross him off my list and say I can't trust you anymore. Devonta Smith led the way, though, 10 targets, 7 for 122. He's a wide receiver, 3 flex. I shouldn't get too many more questions on if I should start him. I want him in my lineups. Zach Ertz actually got more targets than Zach Ertz got more targets than Dallas Goedert in this one. 8 targets, 6 for 60 for Ertz, but Goedert gets the touchdown, catches all 5 of his targets, 56 yards, and the touchdown here. Interesting day. A lot of stats here for the Philadelphia Eagles. It just didn't translate to wins. They could not keep up with Patrick Mahomes and specifically Tyreek Hill. Mahomes comes in 24 of 30, 278 yards, 5 TDs. He was sacked once and also threw an interception, 26 yards on the ground. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, his second straight 100-yard day, 14 attempts, 102 yards, 2 for 12 as a receiver and a touchdown. Darrell Williams also scored a touchdown in this one, 10 for 42 and a TD on the ground. Mecole Hardman, probably just not going to be able to trust him this season here. They even signed Josh Gordon to see what he's got. So I think anybody not named Clyde, Kelsey, Hill, and maybe Darrell Williams. Darrell Williams should be held on to, because if anything happens to Clyde, Darrell Williams is the guy. But Tyreek Hill, man, this one's all about him. 12 targets, 11 receptions for 186 and 3 touchdowns. Travis Kelce goes only 6 targets, 4 for 23. So those two are kind of flip-flopping, a little bit frustrating. But again, this Chiefs offense, it's Mahomes, it's Clyde, it's Tyreek, it's Kelce. And then I think Darrell Williams is probably worth the scoop. And then maybe Josh Gordon. They've been saying good things about Josh Gordon, so just check that out. The Cardinals and the Rams. The Cardinals moved to 4-0, stunned the Rams 37-20. Look at the snap counts real quick. For the Rams side of things, Cooper Kupp 96%, Robert Woods 96%, Darrell Henderson 90%, so that's a good sign for him. Tyler Higbee here at 79%, Van Jefferson 68%. No other Rams can be trusted. This is a core 5 here that we're going to want to trust going forward. For the Cardinals, Hopkins up here at 96%, AJ Green 86%, Christian Kirk 72%, Chase Edmonds played well in this one, 67%, Max Williams also played really well in this one, 58%, Rondale Moore outside of our circle of trust, only 42% snaps for him, but James Conner 42% of the snaps. That was good to see him, and we'll look at his stat line right now. James Conner comes into the game, gets 18 carries, 50 yards, and the 2 touchdowns, 2 for 16 as a receiver. So if you watched any of my stuff before, the season started, we were pumping up James Conner because we saw this role coming. He's going to be the touchdown guy. So if you play in standard leagues, James Conner is a fun running back to own. But Kyler Murray, quiet day from Kyler Murray, 24 of 32, 268 and 2 touchdowns. He only adds 39 yards as a rusher. Chase Edmonds, though, 12 for 120. 4 for 19 as a receiver. He's locked and loaded he's technically a fringe running back 1 at the moment. I like his floor a lot in PPR leagues. Rondale Moore, 2 for 9 on the ground, 3 for 28 as a receiver. AJ Green was the receiver of the game in this one, 5 for 67 and a touchdown. Hopkins, quiet day, 4 for 67, but you get your double digits. You're fine. You have Hopkins. And then Max Williams catches all 5 of his targets for 66 yards and a touchdown. This was the first Christian Kirk letdown of the season. I'm willing to go back to the well here. So we didn't really learn too much more about the Cardinals. We just know that they're freaking good. You want to try to get as many Cardinals on your team as you can. Matthew Stafford, 26 of 41, 280 yards and 2 touchdowns. Interception here, 21 yards on the ground. Sony Michel fumbled in this one. And then it was the Darrell Henderson show. He gets 14 for 89 as a runner, 5 for 27 as a receiver. Van Jefferson led the way in yards today. 6 targets, 6 receptions, 90 yards, and a TD. Cooper Kupp here, 13 targets, 5 for 64. You got Cooper Kupp. You'll be fine. This is a floor game for Cooper Kupp. Robert Woods goes 4 for 48 and catches a touchdown. You'll be fine. You got Bob Woods. It looks like he's going to continue to build off this one, hopefully. Tyler Higbee, 6 targets, 4 for 36. That's a floor game out of Tyler Higbee. You're fine. But the biggest takeaways from this game, Van Jefferson probably should be picked up off waiver wires. Darrell Henderson, probably a running back 2 going forward at the moment. And then AJ Green, too, turning back the clocks, looking pretty good here. But Seattle, San Francisco, this is our last game of the show here. Seahawks win 28-20. Trey Lance season is upon us for the 49ers here. Deebo Samuel, great game for him as well. George Kittle, though, leads the way, 92% of the snaps. Deebo at 89%. Kyle Juszczyk, 82%. And then you see Brandon Ayuk, 67%. I apologize if I recommended starting Ayuk. Sanu, 51%. Trey Sermon, 51%. And Trey Lance, 51%, as Jimmy Garoppolo has a calf strain. On the Seahawks side of things, Tyler Lockett leads the way with 86% of the snaps. Will Dissly, with Gerald Everett out, Will Dissly gets a whopping 82%. DK Metcalf, 82%. Kobe Parkinson getting the tight end 2 snaps here. Freddie Swain, the clear wide receiver 3 in this offense, gets 45%. Chris Carson, I'm a little concerned, though. He only gets 45% of the snaps. Alex Collins gets 39% of the snaps. I think we should be picking up Alex Collins off the waiver wire this week. We'll talk about that more tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central Time. Russell Wilson, only 16 of 23, 149 and 2 touchdowns. They were efficient enough. And he also added 26 yards and a touchdown on the ground here. Alex Collins leads the way in rushing, 10 for 44 and a TD. 2 for 34 as a receiver. So again, he's a guy we have to look at on the waiver wire tomorrow. Chris Carson, only 13 attempts, 30 yards, 1 for 1 as a receiver. Not great for Carson. Metcalf leads the way as a receiver. 8 targets, 4 for 65 and a touchdown. Lockett, rough day, 4 for 24. And Freddie Swain making he's an interesting guy on the waiver wire. 3 for 20 and a TD here. Will Dissly didn't do anything with his opportunity. 2 for 5. Jimmy Garoppolo, he started the game well, 14 of 23, $165 and a TD, 1 interception, but he gets hurt. Trey Lance comes in, and Lance goes 9 for 18, 157, 2 touchdowns, sacked once, adds 41 yards on the ground. Trey Sermon looked good as the lead runner, 19 carries, 89 yards. No other running back got a single carry, so really good news for Trey Sermon here. No involvement in the passing game, but still, you'd like to see the trust there from Shanahan. Deebo Samuel, player of the game. 12 targets, 8 for 156, and 2 TDs. If you had him in your lineup, you probably won this week. Juszczyk as the fullback goes 4 for 41. George Kittle, 11 targets, but only 4 for 40. Hopefully that gets better. Mohamed Sanu, 5 targets, 4 for 34, 4 for 35. Ross Dwelly catches a random-ass touchdown, 1 for 21 and a TD. And Brandon Ayuk, again, I apologize if I recommended Brandon Ayuk. The usage is there. He's still the number 2 receiver, but only 3 targets, 1 for 15. On a day where the Niners throw the ball 41 times. A little bit disappointed, but man, the Trey Lance season is upon us. We'll talk more about these guys tomorrow night, but I think going forward, Deebo Samuel, top 5, top 10 receiver at the moment right now. And the Seahawks offense, I mean, they're 2-2. They're going to play the Rams on Thursday Night Football, but I'm a little concerned with just the lack of plays, snaps, total stats. It's a little concerning, but I don't know. That's going to do it for tonight's video. Again, if you hung on to the end, let me know in the comments below what your favorite part of the show is. I continue to do these videos every Monday night, and I don't do them live. I just upload them. But if you find this information useful, I really appreciate it. I don't think this video gets enough views as it should, so I've just been kind of contemplating if I should continue to make this video. But to me, this is the video. This is the stuff that I really care about, snap counts and the box scores, seeing who did what. So just let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for your time. Have a good rest of your evening, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Peace.